So it's with a monstrously heavy heart that I present this diorama, a disastrous build that I originally meant to finish before the release of the new Monkey movie, which obviously didn't happen, and can be blamed on material delays, followed by some personal fuck-ups and other excuses, really. But despite that, we stand here today, so brace yourself as you watch this disfigured amalgamation born of greed and hate, which they called Godzilla in 1997. I'm kidding, it's this video too. They're both subpar, really. Anyways, I love me some Mechagodzilla, Tokyo SOS version to be precise, so I spent a good amount of dough surrounding my queue with materialistic goods, but I've never really gone all out with setting up the display proper, so it's about time we change that. So let's dive right into our core/unique materials, most of which came from China, hence the delay, and we're starting off strong with our Godzilla figure for referencing and scaling, who's 100% Japanese, by the way, one of our few exceptions.
Are you Chinese or Japanese?
Some foliage, cars, lights, plugs for set lights, buildings, times 6, stone walls, and lastly, a base for everything to sit on. Now, this should be just enough to give us something good, or so I thought, but starting from the top, making it drop, that's a wrap. Let's talk about the buildings, which I ordered off of AliExpress, and they range from $10 to $15 a pop and came in a deconstructed state. Now, scaling wise, I tried to base it off the scenes from the film, but they seemed to best fit with end scale and smaller. So after putting on my Minecraft hat, I started building, and thankfully this was a pretty self-explanatory build, which meant my little monkey brain was able to finish it pretty quickly. So with everything crafted, we can move on to our base, which is going to be made out of some recycled foam from my Mortal Kombat diorama, which you can watch right here, by the way. I was originally going to measure the whole thing, but a million years of evolution clicked in my monkey brain yet again.
I have to make the buildings removable and other things.
So, using the glass as a guide, I was able to get an accurate measurement for the base, which was totally negated by my shitty cutting skills. But now I don't know why I tossed the film and decided to keep using the glass as a guide, but I did. So using the glass, I spent some time setting up a rough idea, which I ended up liking, and with that okay to go, we transferred the setup into foam and drafted out. First off, to give this thing some semblance of depth, we're going to add a minor elevation, specifically this little corner right there, which is going to be lined with these Japanese style rock barriers that I got from, you guessed it, AliExpress.
Okay. It smells just like popsicle stick.
With the shape traced and cut, I proceeded to measure out the stone wall, which ended up a bit short, but was easily fixed by carving the edges of the foam down to an angle. From there, we just gotta put the base together using some quick set 2-part epoxy that you can get from just about any hardware store. Now, despite the fact that this is a video and the concept of time is less than relevant here, we're gonna go ahead and let it sit, preferably under some weight. While that dries, we're going to shift our attention towards the buildings, which, if you really think about it, are the main component of the build. So, to prep them, I deconstructed the base.
Yeah, that's right. That one was being held together by this.
Which helped level the buildings, while also leaving an opening for the LEDs. I set the display up one last time and proceeded to painting. Now, despite my research into the color scheme of Japanese buildings, I'm still very color impaired and utterly suck at anything color related, but I did try, more than I like to admit actually. Each building got its own color scheme and slight variation. It's not 100% accurate, but I gave it a go, and that's all that really matters. Now, taking advantage of the paint, I went ahead and started spraying, which, here's my first monstrous mistake. Foam can be very susceptible to melting, so it's always best to prime your foam with a light coat to prevent just that. I was a lazy dog, and I paid the lazy dog price. After finishing the main color and some minor reassembly, we get to move on to some fine detail, which of course, being a literal dog, I'm horrible at, but I did try. Again, I'm always trying. Don't let it be said I don't. I spent about 2 whole days masking and painting, which paid off for the most part because just having the contrast between the walls and the windows makes the whole thing a lot more realistic. And you also get to peel the buildings, which is very satisfying. From there, we can move back to our base, which still needs a lot of groundwork, so using some masking tape, I laid them roads down. Following that, I had some divine intervention with the trees as I came to the realization I didn't have quite enough to fill up the streets. So I rushed myself to my local Hobby Lobby, which...
I did it again. It's fucking closed on a Sunday. God damn it.
So I went for my only alternative.
In the white neighborhood? God, that is the nicest Michaels I have ever seen.
Which thankfully had some trees on sale, meaning I was all set on the foliage department. And ready to lay down the roads using some dark gray to get the job done. Unfortunately, I got kinda lazy with the masking tape, both in the beginning and the end. So using some light gray acrylic to match, I started patching up the road. Now, while that dries, we're going to start prepping the grass, which is just a matter of outlining, cutting out, and ultimately gluing into place using some epoxy, to keep the foam from melting, of course. Now, while that dries, we're going to prep our stone wall with a small black wash just to give this thing a little color and some depth. As far as attaching this thing goes, it's the same process as before. Cut to size, spread some epoxy, and apply. Now, taking advantage of the grass and epoxy, I went ahead and added a little rooftop garden since I remember seeing it in anime at least once. And with that, we're pretty much done with the whole crafting aspect of this project and can finally move on to the really fun part, the setup. First off, our pretty buildings, which I tried placing biggest to small from back to front. Not that it mattered much since they were all about the same size, but it's the thought that counts. Following that, we have our cars, which I try to place as randomly as possible, even customizing a special one just for this. Next up, we have Tokyo's defender and friend to all Little Leaguers, Kiryu. And Godzilla himself, because you can't have the mecha without the Zilla. And just to add some fun details, we're going to leave some tail destruction behind. And lastly, to give this thing some life, we're going to add our trees, and lots of them. I guess I won't break the illusion quite just yet, as we move on to our lights, which despite ordering the wrong ones, I was able to jerry-rig to work with my power adapter by stripping some wires and using a specific connection here. One quick test later, and it seemed to work okay. The rest of the setup was just a matter of connecting the right ends until you're left with this centipede-like bundle of wires and LED lights. From there, everything just went to shit. My monkey brain was evolved enough to make me worry about the voltage, but not quite evolved enough to input the right amount.
Did I just blow everything out?
So, not realizing I was already above the limit, I turned it up more, cause I'm a stupid ape, so I ended up blowing all but 6 of my LEDs. So you know how when you keep up failing at something, you just don't want to do it anymore? Well, that's literally my life and this project, but despite that, I tried to get the best shot with what I had, so if you would suspend your disbelief for a second, let's go ahead and take a look. All right. Thank you guys so much for watching, especially if you made it this far. I appreciate you. Let me know what you guys thought of this project. It was a total cluster F, but here I am at 3 in the morning finishing this video up for you guys. So I hope you guys like it. Also, thank you guys so much for the 500 subscribers. It means the world to me. Frankly, I'm surprised 500 people are like, hey, I'll subscribe to this guy. So thanks. That being said, if you're new and enjoy seeing me struggle through everything, go ahead and subscribe. It's a good time, I think. But yeah, let me know what you thought of the project. Let me know who your favorite Godzilla monster is. It's a Kiryu for me. And with that, we'll go ahead and call it a video. So thanks again for watching, and I'll catch you on the next one. I should have gone the other way.